Hey guys, here we are back again for some more Python BACnet Stacks Playground. So this is an applied Python course to study the BACnet networking stacks. There's two libraries that we've been working with called BAC0 and BACpypes3. Once again, this is not an advanced networking course, as BACnet can get very advanced as networking concepts, and it's also not a low-level bytes on the wire. That's another advanced topic of how the BACnet specification is written. That's a concept called network programming, where people are coding to decipher bytes on the wire. So we're just in the Python world. Python data types and BAC0 and BACpypes handle all of that for you. So just Python data types, and we're still on the week 2 and 3 of the vibe code app checkpoints, and I think we're up here. We're still studying some of the computer science theory, so I'm trying to catch up on more of the computer science theory side. Just realized I didn't open up VS Code yet. Okay, so see some of the earlier videos for how to set up Visual Studio Code, and then also the Python libraries, how to pip install it, and then there's also some of the VS Code extensions for Python that make things a lot easier. So this is what we did yesterday. We were playing around with a sync.io gather, which is kind of cool, I guess. If you're let's say you have hundreds of BACnet requests, and perhaps using this async.io gather makes the requesting completely asynchronous. So once again, like, we're using async.io, which is kind of like a modern way of, in Python world, of doing asynchronous IO, input output type tasks, which is great for network stacks. So it revolves around async definitions for functions, and then also everything has an await. So like, we send a request and then we wait, and then there's other things that can be going on during that time, where one task is waiting, the other can be executing. So it there's a lot going on under the hood. Okay, so like, to make our vibe code checkpoint 2, part of this is saving this data to CSV files. So I might just do something really quick, because I want to just make sure that we're just kind of using most of this for the theory lecture, maybe next 2 days. I'm going to tell ChatGPT use this code base. Now add a feature for saving data to CSV file locally, where each RPM request appends data to a new row, and also put in the CSV file headers in a nice format for the CSV that is Excel user friendly right from the get-go. Okay. Let's see if ChatGPT can do a quick makeover. So I wanted to keep the same, what we've been working on, how we've been just using these hard-coded data structures, which is actually a lot of fat fingering, but it's actually very efficient. So that's where we define our IP address, our points. And when we saw we were doing things with AI, that it kept on doing point object discoveries, and then a bunch of bogus code. So we don't want to do that. So this is actually getting kind of long. So it's actually making CSV file headers for us. So that's how it's making CSV files. So all right, so it looks like our wow, this is looking actually a lot more complicated than I thought. But it's we'll get into this a little bit later. So it's creating timestamps in UTC format, then also locally. So UTC is Universal Time Zone. Stems looks like it's from ISO. So that's like a different ways of defining timestamps. Usually in databases, I think you do everything's in UTC time zone, so it can be easily transferable to a local time zone. So we're still doing our BACnet read multiple request. All right, let's just see what this does. So some of this looks kind of scary looking, but I don't think it should be too bad. So this is all built into Python. I don't think we'll have to install any external, such as make this run. So I'm going to do Python BACnet code app2. And it looks like it, all right, so it started printed it nicely. Maybe this is a good way to go. So then it even created a CSV file. So this is our data that we could be scraping. And then like the whole point of this is like when we used our while true loop, that is when, this will run forever and then the code will sleep. And then because it's all asynchronous, there's actually BAC0 and BACpypes are still doing things behind the scenes, even responding to other BACnet messages if there were any. So I am kind of curious to just have, I'm almost kind of curious to chat with ChatGPT. So it did some try and accept handling right here. So I suppose that's fine. What does the try and accept handling do? Will it write an error for that row of data if an error occurs on that run? Okay, so this is like exception handling in Python. So like if you're doing real applications, this is kind of how you protect your app from actually crashing, so it'll still run. So let's say there's case one, BACnet device goes offline, times out. This exception handling right here will prevent the whole code base from crashing. Want better than one big. Okay, no, we don't want that. So whatever, maybe this is fine. And then there would just be print statements, I guess, at the moment. So like if some kind of error happened, it would just print here, which might not be super useful if you are setting this up and then you walk away, or something happens in the middle of the night that you may want to know. So that gets way and beyond this course. That gets more into like software engineering and logging. So there'd be log files that you'd have to go sift through and try and figure that out. Okay, so while this is running, let's just see what our CSV file looks like. So that's what, it just appended a new row right there. So looks like this is running should be every 30 seconds. So here's our timestamp, and then here's our data. And then this is just fake data, if you remember, running on the Raspberry Pi. So give me a shout out if you want to know how to run those scripts on Raspberry Pis. It's no different than I'm doing here. I'm just doing it through Linux terminal on Raspberry Pi, and then it emulates a BACnet device. So that is all right. So I think it looks nice, and hopefully our pretend analysts won't mind. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so I'm gonna let this script run. And then what you can do here, down here in the terminal, is like you can open up two terminals. If you go to split terminal, now you can open up two. Remember, you can only have one BACnet application running at a time on the operating system, so that's going to be chugging away, and maybe we can check it a little bit later. So then now we can just do our lesson for today, which will be day 11. So if we go in here, let's just go into day 11. Dictionaries. Dictionaries are our little curly braces, data structure. Before we were just doing lists. Lists were the square brackets. So these are like very popular data structure, and I think they're actually more efficient some way. Most efficient data structure there is in Python. Okay, so day 11, introduction to dictionaries. Learn how to create using dictionaries to map keys and values. By the end of this lesson, be able to find a dictionary and access, update entries, test membership, and handle missing keys gracefully. The dictionary is sometimes called a dict or hash map. Stores key value pairs. So like this is a key, and then that's a value, a key, and then a value. Keys must be immutable data types, such as strings, numbers, or tuples. Remember that word immutable from one of our first couple lessons? Means you can't change it. Mutable means you can change it. So it's just saying that this is, you can't change that. Once you define it, you can't change the key, but you can always change the value. You can't change age, but you can also always change the number. Keys must be immutable types such as strings, numbers, or tuples, which is another data structure we haven't got into yet. You create dictionaries using the curly braces or the dict constructor, way to call it. Access and update values using square bracket, using like the dictionary key and value. Try to access non-existent key, raises key error. To avoid this, use key, get key, and default, which returns default if the key is missing. The in operator tests whether a dictionary contains a given key. The function list D returns a list of the keys dictionaries. This is actually a really good refresher for me. I haven't been getting, this is good stuff. So create dictionaries. You can just define it like this. You can also define them in a for loop too. This is that dict operator. Retrieve and update, print the person, age, so that's just an update, check for keys if name and person, how to handle missing keys. So that's the key, and then the default, then delete, and then you can also delete it. So here's our mini example. Let's just play around with this. And then we can go to on our other terminal, Python script lesson. Okay, so there's a little bit of code here. So something HVAC looking. So point, name, instance, value. So that's what maybe some BACnet data could look like. And then this is actually how to print the key of name, which is zone temp, how to change the value, and then to looks like add a new one right here, how to handle missing key. So there we go. Alright, so this looks like some kind of membership test. So this is just a Boolean for printing if this key is in point, which is the name of the dictionary. Kind of cool. Okay, so what does our micro exercises say for today? Create a dictionary named device with keys, type, and instance with address. Populate it with appropriate values and print the dictionary. So maybe I'll just copy this to the script like we've done the last couple times. No, I do not want a doc lesson. Okay, so create a dictionary named device with type, instance, and address. I'm just going to call this type, instance, address, device. Populate it with appropriate values and print the dictionary. Okay, so maybe let's say this is type. We could just say VBox. I'm just making something up. Instance ID can be device 100 in BACnet. So that could be our BACnet instance ID. We're just kind of playing around here, making it a fake. And then the address could be a string, like we've been playing around with before too. So it could be 192.168.1.1.24. So another thing in BACpypes and BAC0 is like they support CIDR notation in networking. So this is actually means, I'm not a networking expert, but in CIDR notation, this means that the subnet is 255.255.255.0, a class C. And then I think like if you CIDR notation for could be -16, and then that would be a class B, I think it's called, and then a class A or whatever would probably look like that. I've never had to use this before, but like that, if that was your, that gets into subnets. Also worth noting that you can do MSTP addresses, so that could be like MSTP network 1002 for, I think you do something like this, device 9. So if this was a MSTP device, which is a 2-wire twisted pair BACnet device, even though this is just, we're just playing around here, if we were actually on our, printing values, you can do MSTP devices, and I think it's defined like this. So instead of an IP address, which is a BACnet IP, if there's a BACnet MSTP network, which is just old BACnet equipment, most of the BACnet stuff is getting switched over to BACnet IP, but there's still a ton of 2-wire twisted pair networks out there, BACnet MSTP, and their addressing in BACpypes and BAC0 would be something like this. I'm pretty sure I have that right. So it would be your MSTP network and then your hardware address. So, okay, so then we just print device, and here's our script lesson. There's our little data structure. Okay, so that one's done. Update the address key with and add a new status with value online. Okay, so we would do, I think we do device, good practice for me. Ooh, cool. So what's really neat is that with our VS Code extension, that it already recognized that I wanted to do an update for key value, so it just kind of auto-filled that in. That's a really cool feature. So update the address key. Okay, so we'll just say, let's pretend that our IT staff said they need to change the network to that address in our fake little data structure. So, and add in a new key called status. Okay, so we do device, and we're going to add in a new key called status, and then we're going to say that it's online. Almost kind of mimicking some kind of real thing that would be testing if a device or recording if the status of a device. Kind of cool. Okay, so if we print device again, then we can see that we got our updates. Pretty neat. Use the get to retrieve the priority of a device, providing the default of 16. Okay, so we don't have a priority defined in our fake little data structure. So device dot get, and then we wanted priority, and then I guess like default. I don't know if this will work. So we could see, make this a variable, and then print priority. All right, so pretty neat. So this is like, even though it's the same name, that doesn't matter. This is a variable outside of the dictionary, but then we're just getting, trying to retrieve the word, the key priority from here, but it doesn't exist, so it's defaulting to 16. So that's how the dictionary works with this get method, which is a safe way of trying to retrieve data from the dictionary. And if this doesn't exist, it'll just do that. Test whether the key instance exists using the operator. Okay, so we went to print. I think they did like this in the lesson in device. True. Okay, so like, I never knew this before. It's kind of learning for me too. So like, this will print a Boolean operator true if this key is in our data structure. You could even add more things in here too. And I'm just going to make something up. And what would be another, let's say, point in device. So this is going to be false, because that doesn't exist in our little data structure, but this does. So this should be false. False. So that's another way of saying there's Python. We could have a whole bunch of stuff for Boolean operations. Can't remember if we covered this before, but you could also do like that, I think. Ooh, maybe I'm thinking of a different coding language. Okay, so I guess and. So I think that covers it for this lesson today. So we're up to the point of having, looks like we're scraping some data. And that's working. So I think in the real world, you don't want to scrape data more than 60 seconds intervals. That's a lot of scraping, a lot of network traffic. So I'm going to just put that to 60. 300 seconds, 5 minutes is a nice scrape interval for HVAC health purposes and determining what's going on in the HVAC. But pretty neat. Maybe I wonder if it'd be worth just seeing if what our day 12 lesson is for tomorrow. looping over dictionaries. So I wonder if we could just do this one too. Discover how to iterate through dictionaries using items, keys, and values through a for loop. So we did discover, maybe I'll just save this for tomorrow, because try and just do a few things every single day. A little bit of practice, but this is cool. This is good stuff. So like we studied lists, data structures, and then this is kind of combining lists and dictionaries using the zip function. So that's kind of cool. I haven't really played around with this in a long time. So I think that's it, guys, for today. And then on our little daily vibe code app, we can I think the next thing will be if this would run long term, like we would want to look at all the data already, all of our fake data. So like if we ran this long term, we would want this to rotate files once a day. So maybe we'll have ChatGPT tomorrow add a new feature to our vibe code app 2 that'll just create another folder, and it'll just say data with a date next to it, and then once a day it'll make a new file, a fresh file. So that's coming. But that's all for today. Thanks, guys. Hope you have a good one, and we'll see you tomorrow.